Hey folks, welcome back. This is Joel, and we will pick up from where we left off in the previous video, right? So if you haven't checked that out, please do check. The previous video was basically on the discovery. We did a whole introduction of STA again, and we did a quick lab on discovery, right? So in this video, we will continue with our discussion, and we will get into what will we get into? We will look into this specific section, which is your design section, right? So we are done till here, right? Till here we are done. We are getting to the design section. So as you see here, right, the design, the provision, and you have policy and assurance. So these are your various apps, right? You can see those apps down in your just pull that up. Give me a second. Right, so yeah, you can basically see those 4 apps at the top over here, right? Design, policy, provision, assurance, and platform is mainly your API related stuff, but these are your 4 apps, right? So I have kind of arranged my mind map very much in line with that. You can see you can basically see the design, you can see provision, policy, and assurance. So we are going to look into a design section a bit today. So in the design section, like I've mentioned this before, right, we basically look into various network related configurations, right, device specific configurations and so on. So let's dive into it right away. So let's come back on this guy. Yep, so there we go. So we'll go on to design, and while we are on design, let's go and click on add site, right? So this is interesting. So network hierarchy is very important. So here what you got to do is you might have networks spread across, maybe you might have enterprises spread across cities, or maybe in different countries and so on, right? So this DNA basically, or DNAC basically allows you to kind of geographically mark those devices, so that later you can push policies and do configurations for those specific regions, right? So this is a very good grouping, and which has to be done. Now that being said, what we'll do is we'll first go and add a site. So I think earlier they used to call it a site, but I don't see sites anymore here. So let me just add an area. So we are basically going to add an area called, or maybe let me see if I can add it from here. So this is global, and we have what, import sites, add building, add areas. Okay, so let me add an area. So I'm basically going to call this as US, right? Or maybe I can, yeah, US is fine, right? So I'm basically going to say US. I'm going to mark it as US. Once we are in US, what we'll do is we'll add the next hierarchy, which probably we could pick a state over there, and that would be our let's add an area, and we call this as Texas, right? Let's call this as Texas. So you see here the parent is getting mentioned. You have global, then you have US, and now we are mentioning Texas. So that went in, right? We can click here. You can see that is visible over there. So you can do such kind of hierarchy, right? In fact, in my case, let me go and put in a couple more hierarchies to make it. Let's probably add one more area, and let's call this as Richardson, right? So a small city up there. So inside Texas, which is good. So we are inside this now, right? Global, US, Texas, Richardson, and maybe let's now put in some kind of a building, right? So we are inside this particular, say, a small town or a city. Now we can add a building, right? And the building name, you can put in any name. In my case, I'm going to say Richardson 6 or something like this, right? So there you go. So the building name is there. You also have a provision to put in an address, right? So in my case, I'm going to paste some address, and it will start giving you suggestions, right? I'm going to pick something for now because it doesn't matter, right? It's just a lab. But you see it picked from the world map, right? It picked the exact place based on my address, and it's showing me the pin over here. So I'm going to add this, right? So you see what has happened. I have put in the hierarchy. I've put in a building as well. Now you can even go to the floor level in the building. So what I'll do is I'll probably go and add a floor. So let's say we'll go and add a floor here, right? So in the floor section, I can say basically maybe this is like floor 2, right? So I could mention that. The parent is obviously Richardson because RCDN6, that's the building name. Maybe the RF model, because the floor map can be imported. You can see upload option here. You can import the floor map because that will be later used for all the Wi-Fi related configurations, right? Or maybe doing some kind of Wi-Fi troubleshooting, the AP troubleshooting, and so on. So you have the provision even to import your floor plan. So let's say maybe these are different types of offices. I'm just going to say it's a drywall office only, and I can now upload something. So I'm going to go to my desktop and I have some kind of a floor plan here. So I'm just going to upload that, and I can also mention obviously this to be something like 300, maybe like the width, right? The width could be 300. You have to exactly match that with with the floor plan which you uploaded, right? Otherwise your old calculations would be wrong. So if your floor is actually 300 feet width, mention that, and corresponding length gets populated, and the height also you can mention, say like in my case probably I can go and mention it as 15, right? That's it. So I'm gonna add it, and there you go. So you can see the floor plan also got kind of like populated, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So we have this great way of defining the hierarchy, right? Now you also have an option to import the sites. I mean, if you don't want to manually add it here, you can define it in a CSV file and kind of import it as well, right? So you can check that out. Now coming to the network settings, the next section, let's probably go to the network here. So right now you see here on the left hand side I have selected global. So whenever now I do any configurations, we are basically doing it for the global or the parent, right, the topmost site. But all those settings will get inherited to the local or the children. Let's call this as children, and the one at the top is basically the parent, right? So you do configuration on the parent, automatically all the configurations will get inherited to the children, right? And then if you want to change something for the children, you can go down to each of the site over here and you can manually edit the configuration. So those will take precedence over the global configuration. Hope that's clear. So for now we are going to put everything inside global. So we are on the global side. Let's say I want to put in a DHCP server. So I think in my topology the DHCP server is at this IP address. All right, so DNS server, the DNS server, the domain name will be cisco.com. I don't think I have a DNS server, but for now I'm just going to put this itself. All right, I'm not going to be using DNS mainly in the lab, so I don't have it. The syslog, SNMP, we can skip. Time zone, we can give it as GMT, or if you want to change to the one you would want your DNA to pick, you can change it. Just make sure that your DNA center and the ICE, they are in the same time zone, right? Else the sync and all of that might screw up. Message of the day, you can put in like a message of the day over here so that that gets pushed to all the devices. But in my case, I'm just going to probably do that using device templates later. So let's not put anything here. Let's save this. You can see it's successful. This we were able to save it. What else? So let's move on. Let's apart from this, right, what we saw here was only DHCP, DNS, syslog, and SNMP. Apart from this, you can add more stuff. Like in my case, I'm going to add a AAA and a NTP server. So I'm going to click that, right? So now you see the AAA appears here. What will I do with the AAA? So AAA is I'm going to use my ICE only, right, as a AAA server. I'm going to select that. I don't want any authentication for my network devices. I want authentication mainly for my client and endpoints. I'm going to click that. And what else? So protocol, both are supported, but I'm going to obviously select only radius for now. And the servers, sorry, I should have gone like this. So the servers, if you can even integrate some third-party servers, right? If you don't have ICE, maybe you have some other AAA server, you can put that as well. In my case, I'm going to use ICE, right? And I have already integrated ICE, right, to my DNAC, so it shows up here. I can select that, right? In my previous video, I showed how to integrate it, right? So that's basically why it is appearing. You can have, or you can mention if you have some kind of client, and give me a second. My laptop is acting up. All right, sorry about that. So I'm going to select my primary IP address of my ICE, right? So that's done. that's pretty much it. I believe I have already set up the secret and all of that when I added the ICE, right? So that should be good. Now let's scroll down to the NTP, right? So remember I added two servers. One is my one is my ICE and other one was NTP, right? So I'm basically going to use 172.16.29.1 as my NTP for my network. You can obviously use the one which makes sense for you, or maybe I can even use the same thing which I have used here. Let me just see if I have NTP enabled on it. Alright, yeah, so I'm using a internal vSwitch with this particular IP address, so I'm going to use that only as my NTP server. But you need not use this. Obviously you can use any device in your network as an NTP server, right? So but it's straightforward. I mean, you just need to have reachability for that device. Cool. So let's go and save this. I just wanted to show you that you can add more servers, right? Not just restrict yourself to the 3 or 4 things which are shown here. It's a default setting. Cool. The next part, device credentials. Remember we did this again in the discovery section. We added a couple of device credentials. So what we are going to do now is we are going to, I mean, they appear here, right? But they are not being right now used because they are not selected. So I'm going to select here, right? I'm going to save this. Then let me select the read-only, one as well. So I got to do this individually. Sometimes, they don't get acted upon if I do everything in one shot. So I'm doing it individually. So that was the read only, and then I'll go to the read write as well and select it and save it. So there you go. So I've selected and I've saved the 3 credentials which we added. One for CLI and 2 of them for SNMP. So these are the credentials using which the DNAC is able to connect to our devices to do any configuration changes. Right? Cool. The next part. Let's go to the next one, which is your IP address pools. Now this is important. So all the pools which are needed for your in this case, let's say the site global, right? Everything which you're going to use later on in your network design, you got to define it here, right? So the idea is this one. You go and define your pools here and then go and reserve it, wherever needed under your different buildings and so on, right? So this is how we do it. So we go on adding pools, right? In our case, I think I saved it here. So let me just paste those. So I think we have a pool for production environment, right? So I'm going to put that. The type is going to be generic. The subnet, I believe it's 192.2.11.0. So I'm going to use this subnet. The prefix length, all of them, I'm going to keep it simple. So straightforward /24. You don't have to do that. You can keep whichever you want. 2.11.1, right? This is your Anycast gateway. Remember, for every pool, for every address subnet, we're going to have this Anycast gateway which will be pushed to all the edges, right? That's the whole idea about VXLAN and stuff which we did in the couple of videos back. So this is needed for that. So when DNAC pushes the configuration, it will use this as your DNAC, or your Anycast gateway, right? You can also put your DHCP server, right? In my case, it's 172.16.99.13. So let's do that. This is needed because when the edges come up, right? I'm not sure this pool is mainly for that, but whenever a client comes up, it has to be given an IP address. So it will reach out to this DHCP server for that. DNS server, we are not mainly using it, but still let me go and put in the same thing. So let's save this. So there you go. One particular pool got created. So I'm going to probably pause the video now and create the rest of the pools. I don't want to bore you with the same thing again and again because it's straightforward, right? Let me just pause it for a minute. All right. So I've basically put in all the IP addresses or the pools which we'll be using it in our fabric. Like for example, I believe we'll be using this for the PNP when we do the LAN automation. We will use the prod for the production network. We will use the infra mainly for the access points, guest network, and I think the border WAN maybe we'll use it for the underlay. But anyway, so you plan your network pools and all of that, and you basically go and add it here so that later you can reserve it. Right now, next, once you're done with that, you can reserve the pool. So I'll show you the reserving when we actually get to that. We will not do the reservation now. The next part is we could probably also check out this image repository. So what you can do here is you can manage your whole software, right? Okay, this is one thing which you'll go and have to accept, right? Otherwise it will keep on giving the alert, right? It's the EULA agreement, right? failed to communicate to cisco.com. Okay, maybe I'll try that later. Anyway, so this is the place, or this is the tab where you can actually upgrade your devices as well, right? It's a one single place for this is just the repository though. But then you can on S2N actually you go to the settings and do that, but you have a provision to upgrade your devices, put in new patches and so on, right? Probably we'll do it sometime, maybe later in the video series if possible, but for now we can move on to the next thing, which is your network profiles, right? So this is important. So what I'm going to do here is I want to show you guys how you can configure your devices using some templates, right? And this is where that comes. So what I'll do is I'll go and configure, let's add a template. I'm going to add a switching template because our devices are mainly border devices, which are, I believe, CAT 9K or 3K. Let me just quickly go and check. In fact, we'll do it for both of them. So it's going to be 9500, 9300, right? So we could do that. So let's go back to, so we are here. Let's go to the day and templates, and what we'll do is we'll let's go and create a profile. First, you gotta create a profile. So let's add a name for this. So the project. Okay, first you gotta create a project. I think I did not do that. Let me cancel this. So we are here. Do we have an option to add a project? Maybe not. Add a. Okay, let's go to switching. Profile name, we could give anything, but then let's just give me a second. All right, yeah, so I think I missed out one part. Before actually coming and creating a network profile, right, we will have to create a template, right, which will be used by the network profile to go and configure. So for doing that, we'll have to jump on quickly to my template editor. So let's go to the template editor, right? So onboarding templates, and this is good. So let's go and click on add. See, this is where you create the project. So first time when you do, you got to create a project so that you can put together all your templates under that particular project, right? So we can create a project and we can say, I don't know, any name is you can give. I'm going to give it as switch templates. Gonna add this. So here it appears, right? Your switch templates are appearing here. Now we will go and add a template. It's going to be a regular template. What we will do is our use case will mainly be configuring a banner, right, on the devices. So the MOTD banner, right? We are basically going to do that. So let's give a name. We could give the name for this template something like cat 9K template, I think. Okay, there's something here, so let's give that. The project name automatically gets populated over there. Then what do? We got to select the devices. So in our case, it's going to be for switches and hubs. Let's scroll down and select the 9300 and the 9500. So 9300 is here, 9500 is here, right? So we have selected that. Let's go back. So all of that looks good. The software type is iOS XE, right? Let's add this. So that got added, right? All right, so just like I said, we are done with the templates part. Now we can go back to our okay, so we just created the template. My bad, we did not define anything in the template. So we'll have to define the template. Right now, in our case, we are going to do something very simpler, but you can do much complicated stuff, right? You can push configurations and do much complicated stuff. You can check out the documentation on that, but the main thing which we will mainly be doing is with respect to creating some kind of a banner, right? And you can see here, this is the so you can also put in multi-line commands, right? For multi-line commands, you will have to basically put in some kind of a delimiter, right? Again, you can check the documentation on the templates for more detailed analysis on how to push what kind of commands. But for a single line command, you can just do it this way, right? So I'm going to put in a banner, and what I want to do is next so once I have it, probably I can save it. Okay, yeah, there you go, I can save it. You can even version it, right? So this template gets saved now. You also have the option to version it. So if when I commit this now, it will ask me for a commit note, right? I'm obviously going to skip it, but you can put in a very intuitive note so that in future you can come and check the various versions of this particular template. So I'm going to commit this anyway. So there you go, see the version template, the version basically version 1, right, which got committed right now. Now that's pretty good. So we can now switch back to our design, right, where we were working earlier. So I'll go back to design. We will what did I see here? Okay, sites. Okay, that's fine. So I'll go back to design and under network profiles. So we come back to network profile, and here we go and create a new profile, and that'll be the switching profile, mainly because it's a switching, right? So I'm gonna give a name. It could be anything. I'm gonna give it as, I don't know, network profile 1 probably, right? I believe they've changed this a bit. I think this is mainly for onboarding day 0 kind of templates, and this is like a zero touch provisioning templates, right? This is your template which I'm working on right now. It's a day end template. It's like operational template. So I'm going to go here, click on add. I'm going to select the device type. In our case, it's switches, right? I believe you can't select multiple at the same time. So I'm going to select 9300 once, and then we'll add one more for the 9500, right? So I'm not going to touch that. The template, you can see the template here. Let's add one more, and that's going to be your 90. Sorry, I'll have to edit that. So let's go back and select 9500. In fact, right, there you go. So we're done with 9500. We'll select the template again. There you go. We are going to save this. So what did we do? We created templates. We came back to network profiler, and we are attaching the templates to the network profile, right? Let's go and save this. So there you go. That's done. Now we'll click on this assign to site, right? So you can see you get the site list which we created earlier. We get global, US, Texas, Richardson. This is the building and this is the floor, right? Anyway, I mean, obviously my border routers, the basically devices will probably be kept in the building. So I'm going to select the building. Automatically the floor also gets selected because all of them inherit the properties from the top. So let's save this, right? That's pretty good. Now the next thing probably we can also have a look at is the authentication template. So there are many authentication templates, right? You can see there's a closed authentication. Remember, this is nothing but translates to the port authentication, right? In a .1x or a map configuration, you would basically go and put some authentication configuration under the ports, right? This is basically what we have. You can select anything for your particular site, right? Right now, since we are not deploying it anywhere, I'm not going to touch this. Maybe we'll play around this later. So yeah, the other one is open authentication, which means, you know, it's open, right? There is no authentication needed on the port, right? So that being said, that's mainly our design stuff. All right, so that's mainly our design stuff. So we looked at the various tabs here on the design section. We did not deploy anything in this particular video because that's mainly done in the next video, right? I would want to do that in the next one, because you see, as per our mind map which we have been following here, what did we do just now? We did the design part, and the design part, you don't push configurations anywhere. You do that later, when you get to the provision section, right? And that's our next video. So what did we do? We basically did this part. We did a bit of network settings, and don't think I've mentioned everything here, but we did a bunch of network settings at the global level for all our sites. We put in the credentials, we put in the IP address pools which we'll be using, basic configurations, and we also put in the sites, buildings, floors, and so on, right? In the next video, we will actually look into the provision part, right? So thanks for watching, and do tune in for more videos.